What's up, America? Y'all know who this is. Dropping it. Just after midnight, August 29, 2005, is a day and time I would never forget. This is the day that Hurricane Katrina, a level 5 hurricane, devastated the place I was born and raised in. The shock of New Orleans finally being leveled by one of those hurricanes we often feared had arrived. Throughout the nightmare of being held up in the Superdome and standing on my feet more than 48 hours straight to board a bus to higher ground, I or anyone at the time had no idea how life in New Orleans would forever change. After being homeless for about the next 5 months, staying with friends and family, mostly in the New Jersey, New York, and Chicago area, I often thought of all my displaced friends and family. I also thought of all those that died. Some I even seen deceased at the Superdome. Many of us went through the maze of reconnecting with friends and family at this time. Also around this time, former President George H. Bush and Bill Clinton held fundraisers for money that was supposed to go to help the people of that region. Needless to say, none of this so-called money was ever seen, along with a bunch of other so-called money raised in the relief effort. The natives of New Orleans was promised to be considered first whenever the rebuilding of New Orleans got underway. This ended up being a lie, as many jobs went to whites and Latinos. Few contracts went to minority contractors. Whites raked up plenty money off from the city and government contracts they were offered. Latinos took most of the labor jobs, accepting considerably less an hour than what the job is worth. During this time, because of the housing shortage, many greedy landlords took this as an opportunity to raise the rent on houses that were either rebuilt or renovated after the storm. The rent doubled, especially in the neighborhoods that was least affected by the storm. The only affordable housing in New Orleans was the projects. Because they were solid brick structures, they held solid. Although some people declared this normally unsuitable, many people started living there, including some of its former tenants. In the mid to late 2006, the city council, along with the mayor of New Orleans, C. Ray Nagin, decided that they would now demolish these structures and replace them with mixed-family low-income homes. A move the city has successfully executed some years back after destroying the St. Thomas and the Desire housing projects. Where the St. Thomas stood went up expensive condominiums and townhomes, which none of the former residents couldn't afford to live in as they promised. This land was also built higher, and this area of the city was virtually unaffected by the storm. Where the Desire once rested, townhomes were erected. Most of these were level. These were located in the mostly black neighborhood of the Ninth Ward, which is the biggest neighborhood in New Orleans. In this area of the city, water stood 20 or more feet. Many people lost their lives here. Some were never found. In the days after Hurricane Katrina, many white people formed militias. Dozens of black men were shot or killed by these so-called vigilantes. These crackers even filmed video and acknowledged their role in shooting black men, fearing that they will be burglarized in their homes. Despite these findings and countless medical reports of gunshot wounds being treated at the parish hospital, no investigation has been launched into these shootings, 3 of which were fatal. The media showed images of looters but failed to capture most of these things that I mentioned earlier. Months after Katrina, there were still bodies scattered throughout the streets. The housing shortage has raised the number of homeless in the greater New Orleans area tremendously. People who before never had any trouble paying their rent simply could not afford a dramatic increase. The best thing about New Orleans always has been the cost of living. Many people have specifically moved there just for this reason. People shouldn't be persecuted from a, quote, act of God. Their lives should be at least placed in the same position as before. In a Spike Lee documentary, When the Levees Broke, many residents of the Ninth Ward claimed they heard an explosion. Many conspiracy theories has risen concerning the handling of this storm, most of which can't be validated. The United States takes an active role when something like this occurs abroad, yet did nothing when something like this happened right here. Many claim that the citizens of New Orleans were living modest anyway, so why should they benefit from all this? I say, go tell that to the victims of 9/11, to the victims of the Thailand tsunami, the car industry, the banks, and whoever else gets bailed out by this country when they need it. The people of New Orleans are hard-working American citizens just like any other. If you forget that, then you forget everything this so-called Constitution is supposed to stand for. So in conclusion, I ask, have you really heard the whole truth about Hurricane Katrina? And on that note, I teach and I don't preach. Peace.